And it is for this reason that I'm deciding to take immediate authority, and I have mod controls. I'm going to boot everyone out if they disagree with me. Oh, hold on a second. I'm not G-Man. Anyways, welcome to another theological discussion type of hangout. This is the Christian Anarchist. Hello, ladies. I'm not going to be flirting. Anyways, yeah, so here we're just talking about an incident that happened recently on a debate I saw. And the debate was on what had the title said, anyways, on the one of the well-known doctrine debates of eternal security and conditional security, which is about as good as the idea of the limited atonement to conditional atonement or general atonement type of debates. And so far, when I watched the debate, I was like, okay, I'm liking the points being made. I think both are given their fair case. But here comes question and answer time, Q&A. Whenever Faithful says, okay, so now I'm going to read the name, I'm going to read the questions, and names are going to be anonymous, G-Man Scar has a problem with that. So what happens next, he says, okay, I'll read those who don't have a problem with it, but I would like to ask the first question. And he said, no, you don't get to ask any questions because you're the moderator. You don't get to ask questions. Yeah, so then he just refuses to answer questions and says, I'm going to call you out, I'm going to expose you on G-Man versus the world. And then while Faithful's trying to get everything under control, G-Man starts going off like he's Alex Jones trying to promote his own show. It's like, G-Man versus the world, ladies and gentlemen, make sure you tune in and watch it. I am a WWE wrestler by night. And that's pretty much it. I kind of lost respect for G-Man after that debate. I wanted to originally debate him on limited atonement, the limited atonement doctrine in Calvinism, because I know he had some problems with it. But after seeing this, I don't want to debate him anymore. If he's going to act like this irresponsible and disrespectful in someone's own moderation, we have with us the panel. We have Brother Veckel, which I'm sure some of y'all are familiar with. Me and him are still trying to work on that collab, but we'll get to it eventually. We have Reason X Halos, Preachin' Sean, who was the guy who actually debated G-Man in that hangout. And then we have Faithful to God, who was the moderator of that hangout. Then we have Fiona Robertson, who has encountered G-Man several times and has been a subject of most of his content. We have Andrew, and then we have Baldy the Limey. So let's start with Faithful, since he was the host and had to endure through most of this. So, Faithful, what exactly was going on in your mind when this happened?
Well, I have no idea because it was just so abrupt. It was out of the blue. By the way, can you guys hear me? Am I loud and clear?
Yeah, we can hear
Yes.
you.
Okay. All right.
Mhm.
Basically, this hangout was kind of, I guess it was kind of in the works for about a month or so, and G-Man and Preachin' Sean, I guess they were kind of talking behind the scenes about how the format was going to go about, what the actual title was going to be, and I didn't have much of any participation other than I want to say 2 days before the actual hangout. I kind of saw the time limit or something, and I made mention of that to Sean, so I felt that maybe it should be rearranged. But other than that, my participation was very limited, other than just offering to host the hangout on my channel. So the day of the actual debate, G-Man shows up late, and then when we right before we go live on there, I don't even think he knew what the name of the hangout was, even though he agreed to the actual the header or the title. And then he
Mm-hmm.
decides he doesn't want it to be called "Can a person lose their salvation?" He wants the hangout to be changed to "Eternal Security." And I thought that was a little strange and really, just I mean, last minute at that. And I was like, all right, fine, I'll go ahead and edit the title for him. I did that. Everything was going smoothly up until we get to the Q&A. Now, the thing about the Q&A is that I didn't really get a lot of questions from different people. And CA, you know that more than anybody because I was telling you if you wanted to provide some questions.
I even sent you
So
two of them.
right. So basically, what I wanted to do was, to kind of well, I knew that it was going to turn into something else if I would have said, well, since we didn't get that many questions, I'm going to shorten the Q&A from 15 to 10 minutes or something to that effect. Because I knew G-Man was going to get upset. He would have gotten upset at that and been like, no, 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 you keep it at 15 minutes. So I was like, okay, well, I guess I'll kind of, fill things out by adding a question myself, something, I guess a question that I can ask the two of them. And it wasn't a loaded question. It wasn't anything that I was trying to give anybody an advantage for or anything like that. I simply posed a question to the two of them concerning 1 John 2:19. And I wanted to see how they both reconciled that verse from their positions, from their respective positions, from the conditional security position and the eternal security position. And G-Man, for whatever reason, didn't like, but as you mentioned, he also didn't like the fact that I wanted to keep the questions anonymous because I didn't know if certain people wanted their names to be out there. And at the same time, I know G-Man is the kind of person that if he would have known who was asking him the questions, that he was going to maybe, I don't know. So that's why I wanted to keep the questions anonymous. But I did put people's names out there, but I didn't think it was any problem that I asked a question, that I addressed the two, excuse me, that I posed a question to the two of these, the two debaters, and somehow that led to him whining like a baby for the rest of the hangout. It was like
Mm-hmm.
after that, he really didn't want to address any of the questions. I and I don't know if he felt that somehow I was making up the questions. I even offered to screen share to show him that people are actually asking these questions.
Yeah, you did. I remember.
And
I
and,
remember.
and, and the last thing I remembered was, and listen, I was really holding back. I was really trying to keep my cool, but G-Man can be really abrasive, and it was just getting to the point where I was like, all right, I'm just gonna boot him out. I just got to the point where I couldn't take it anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe I should have been a little more patient, but at the same time, he just tends to bring out that worst in people, man. It's like
You
I
gotta
even told him this.
be more patient.
I've had this discussion with him that he's just his abrasiveness just brings out the worst in people. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, that's
Yeah.
pretty much all I got to say about that. And Sean can back me up on this. That at no point in time did G-Man ever say anything about um, me not asking him questions during the Q&A. He did say, "You're the moderator. Remember, you're not going to be doing this and that about like interrupting us or anything like that." But as far as not asking him any questions, and I wasn't planning on asking questions. Like I said, I was just trying to, fill out the time so that we would meet the 15-minute minimum, or excuse me, the 15-minute time limit. And yeah, I don't know, man.
Mm-hmm.
And here we are.
Yeah, but I mean, you're more patient than me because if I after the first question, if you just said I refuse to answer these questions, I'm like, you refuse to answer the questions? All right, get out. I mean, if you're wasting time in a debate if you're going to refuse to answer the question, because that's the whole
Mhm.
purpose of being in there is to defend a position, and if you're unwilling to do so and you're just going to whine about it, then there's no point in being in a formal debate on this issue.
Right. But the thing that really got under my skin was that he decided to basically I was almost in the middle of asking Sean a question that someone from the audience wanted him to address, and here comes G-Man in the middle of it. And then on top of that, there was I actually asked a question to Sean, and G-Man just jumps in the middle of Sean answering the question. I'm like, now hold on, Sean, wait a minute. Well, Faithful, why are you asking me questions? And why are you like, dude, like, be a professional. If you
Mm-hmm.
have an issue with anything, wait until the hangout is done. Wait until we're off air, and then tell me what you didn't like. And you know what, man? I will. You know what? If you feel that way, I'll apologize. You know.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But what he did was like so immature, so immature. The
Mm-hmm.
worst part was when he made his hangout after I booted him out. he made his hangout and he started blackmailing me, talking about he was gonna screen share our conversations. And I'll tell you what, man, I have no problems saying, he says that I was talking behind people's backs, or whatever he said, which is completely insane, because the only person that I can honestly tell you guys right now that I've spoken to him about from our side, the Christian community, has been Thick Shades. And everybody knows that Thick Shades was on his rampage for about a month or so, where he was pretty much going after everybody. And the only reason I mentioned Thick Shades was because Thick Shades made a hangout about G-Man, and I said, "Hey, G-Man, Thick Shades made a hangout about you. Are you going to address him?" That's it. I don't. But
Yeah.
he made it seem like I'm just, going to him and gossiping. Man, I haven't talked to. Before we had that conversation, I think we've had like three conversations over the course of the past, I don't know how many months. We speak very few and far in between. So I find it to be really disrespectful. I find it to be really disrespectful on his part, that he would even, and for, like, I think even Veko said something about this before we went on here. Um, the fact that he would even want to do something like that, like share private conversations live on air, says it all.
Mm-hmm. Right on. All right, so now we're just gonna get a general talk about this. So anyone wanna say something about this? And as for some questions, there's possibly a chance G-Man might join the hangout and he can defend himself. But of course, that is if there's any room in here, because right now we're full. But if he keeps watching and waiting, maybe he'll get an opportunity. But until then, we're going with what we got.
I got something to say.
Go for it. I,
Oh, thank you, Edgar.
Mhm.
By holding this hangout, you're doing exactly what G-Man wants. I'm not talking very loudly because people are sleeping here, but I thought I'd just jump in for a few moments.
right.
Um, oh, hey, Jimmy. Nice to see you, bro. Well, apparently Jimmy and I are still very similar, even if our theology has changed.
Mm-hmm.
Doing this is not only going to feed G-Man's well, it's going to make him double down and make him think everyone is ganging up on him. Doing this is feeding internet drama. It is not edifying to anybody, and I don't understand why this is necessary at all.
Well, the reason why I'm holding the hangout is not because of this guy. Is because so we discuss how this particular incident and particular behavior is done, and what we were able to learn from incidences like this. I could care less if this guy comes in here. I could care less if he makes a response about this. He can do that all he wants. It's not going to change a
So
dang thing.
why not just follow the basic rule of the internet, that being, don't be a dick? I mean,
Well,
you can talk about G-Man all you like. It's only going to drive more negative views to his channel and justify him and his opinions.
mm-hmm. Well, you know me. I'm an anarchist. I kind of go against the rules.
You're
I
about as
do.
much an anarchist as I'm an American.
I know but you get the point. I'm doing some jokes here. Have some humor.
Well, I do have to say this, and I don't want anybody to think that I put Christian anarchists up to this or anything like that. He, out of his own free will, decided to make this hangout, and I felt that it was
Funny
also.
you should use that terminology.
I just find it to be very telling that G-Man was very quick to go to his channel and pretty much slander me for uh, asking him a question in a debate. All this because I asked him. I don't know.
No, Faithful, I understand the want to defend yourself. That's all very well and good. And I also understand this wasn't your idea. My advice would be don't feed the trolls. And further advice to Christian anarchists would be shut down the hangout. This isn't going to end well.
Well, I will just have to respectfully decline the advice, but thank you anyways, though.
Alright, well, I need to go because I'm waking people up.
All right.
Bye, everybody. God bless.
All right.
Shalom.
Hold Just
Well,
real
I
quick.
will say this:
Can I
if this ends up turning ugly or anything like that, I mean, you can always just delete the hangout unless somebody like
Mhm.
Scholar Fiction.
Yeah.
hey, can I make like
Yes, go ahead,
two
Jim.
two sentences? Okay. Uh, Faithful.
Hmm.
When you said it was really telling that G-Man took this to his channel right away,
Hmm.
I would like to take a uh, what's that called? Curses. Presque-vu has struck again. Can't remember. A poll. I would like to take a poll on G Plus and ask how many people would be surprised at that behavior, because I can tell you I am not. And
Right.
anybody who knows G-Man is not surprised by that behavior.
Yeah, you mean
Anybody who knows what he stands for is not surprised by that behavior. It
mhm.
is very common for G-Man to act so childishly.
Yeah, and I shouldn't have been surprised. I thought it would have gone differently with the debate, but he has done this in other debates where he's tried to interrupt people while they're talking in their deal, saying, "No, that's a straw man. You can't say that," while they're doing their time speeches.
No,
So,
no, no. You guys are misunderstanding what I'm saying.
mhm.
I'm not surprised that he is rude. I'm more so surprised that he went to his channel to slander me and lie on me, basically make up claims about me, and say that I've done. I mean, all because of an incident that took place in a hangout over a question. you know, I understand he's rude, he's abrasive, he does things that tarnishes his ministry, his reputation, everything. You know, he he's his own worst enemy in many cases, and I've told him this. I have said that to his face, or I should say, I've said it to him over Skype. I've let him know. So
But
for him to do that, that was that was pathetic. Straight
but
up, that was pathetic.
with respect, so that's not surprising to me. And honestly, I think Jack's advice is spot on. The best way to deal with G-Man is just to ignore him, to boycott him, and that's it. You know, we're done.
Right, but the problem is that you won't really get that much of a boycott. People, kind of like how Ospen Kane likes to talk to me about religion and others on that. It's as much as sometimes he can hate arguing some points where he believes that religion is poison. He uh, kind of likes debating these issues, so that may be the same thing. So people aren't going to get sick and tired of G-Man because they enjoy talking with him on certain things. I don't enjoy this stuff, but there are times I believe something needs to be said.
Okay, but I guess
With a key.
the purview of my statement is just there is a really uh, fun, encouraging, fruitful group of Christians on G Plus, and we don't need to have G-Man to continue that fruitful, encouraging, and fun group. Like, if he wants to do his thing, that's great. There's a bunch of idiots doing their thing on the internet all the time, and I don't mess with them
Right, but
because
the point is that
But
there are some people that need to know about how G-Man is because apparently some new guy just joined the community and um,
Do you mind saying names or
yeah, his name is Josh or something like that. But
McCowan or McCain or something like that?
I'm not sure, but I remember there was some kind of wording. It was part of his face was on the deal, and some other phrase was on like "God is love" or something. And he's like, I don't understand why these Christians hate you. They hate you, or they argue with you so much because you speak the truth. You're the most biblically sound Christian I've ever met. On
was that Josiah?
No, not Josiah. This is a guy named Josh or something. He's new.
Yeah, that's who I was thinking of, Josiah.
Mm-mm.
right, but the issue there seems to me to be discernment, not a lack of people standing up against G-Man.
Well, no,
G-Man is idiotic enough to where you watch one of his videos and that's enough to condemn his ministry.
mm-hmm.
So
But
if this
could I make a
person,
point here, though? Could I make one point here, though?
Sure.
That I think whenever we see a fellow believer starting to have problems like this, then it is a responsibility to step in and try and help them.
Right. And I will say this. I'm not I don't see G-Man as my enemy. I don't see him as someone who I want to go out of my way to I guess trash and just disrespect and to be honest, and Veckel can definitely tell you guys can vouch for this. Um, the thing about me and G-Man is that I've always told him, I told him, you have a really good presence about you when you actually preach the gospel and you're not doing all these silly antics and going out of your way to quote unquote own people or whatever he wants to call it. But the thing is that his antics tarnishes his ministry. That nonsense that he did in that one hangout with I forget her name, with Jade, I think it was on Fiona's channel.
That's right, yeah.
Yeah, it was on your channel, Fiona.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was bad, and I let him know. Even Ken thought that was really not a good look, and he let G-Man know, G-Man, you shouldn't have done that. That wasn't right. He actually left him a comment on that video. He thought that it was a good idea to take that clip, put it on his channel, and somehow everybody was going to go, good job, G-Man. You exposed them. What he did was I don't know if he realizes that his antics hurt his image. And I hate to say his image because I make it sound like, it's, as Christians we know that it's all about Christ. But if we're going to be representatives of Jesus to non-believers and we're going to act that way, then I mean, why would we represent the King of Kings in that fashion if we know that we are his ambassadors before the non-believers, right?
That's what G-Man does.
All of us here, huh?
I mean, that's G-Man's thing. Is like you talk about these antics as if they're an interruption to preaching the gospel, but they're not really. Preaching the gospel is the interruption of his antics. His antics are the majority of anything that he has to say.
Can I just before you? I know I'm butting in. I'm enjoying the conversation. I just want to say this. I really appreciate the fact that. I mean, look at the people in this room. We have Christian and Marcus. We have Faithful, Fiona, Jimmy, Preachin, Wayne, Beckel. I don't know about Reason X and Andrew. I've never met them, and obviously myself. We are a bunch of guys and girls that are educated. We have established, degrees in certain fields. We're also professing Christians, and I really appreciate the fact that we've all got together to actually have a discussion, in Christ's love. So don't feel bad that you're having a discussion to begin with. I think this is very mature, and this is only going to showcase to, say, the non-Christian that here are Christians who are concerned about a person that has a local connection with the atheist community that we also dialogue with. Mm-hmm. And so I think it's very good.
I find it telling because G-Man, believe it or not, and I know the atheists who will watch this later on, or if they're watching right now, will probably scoff at this idea, but G-Man has a gift. He really does have a gift at being able to preach, and he can be very charismatic when he is cool, calm, and collected. But as soon as he gets into that mode of abrasiveness where he's just attacking, he can be he can be one of the most vile people in this community. And I hate to say that. I hate to say that because he has a really, believe it or not, he has a really good heart. But his pride just like makes it all for naught. It's like it just makes everything good that he does disappear, or it tarnishes any little I don't know. It's just it's frustrating. It's
I'm
very
gonna
frustrating.
I think
I'm gonna take off and make room for people, but just real quick, I think the best way to deal with it is just to point him to his church elders and ignore him, because
Bingo.
the
Bingo.
fact that
that has
he's
been tried.
on here binging away on the internet when he doesn't even have his pride and doctrine straight just is really telling. That's what's really telling. He has his priorities completely out of order. The Christian community here is to stand together as Christ. We are to be the body of Christ. We are not being the body of Christ when we do not put Christ as Lord of our hearts first and foremost. If you're on here to have prideful antics, you are hurting the body, and you're making look foolish that which is the only hope of unbelievers.
Hey, if I may take a few minutes, I had some screen shares that I wanted to share, just because, what I've been hearing about, Faithful, like the accusation that, Faithful was breaking the rules of the debate and everything like that. I'm just going to kind of share with you. First of all, the first thing that I ever did, well, let me see, there's this one right here, which on February 7th, I put a G+ post out. Said, G-Man, I would like to debate you on the topic of, can a saved person end up in the lake of fire? And then the first comment I received was from Faithful. I'd be willing to host a debate between you two if we can all get on the same page. I replied back, sounds good to me. I'll see if G-Man agrees when he responds. And then, let me see here, I gotta switch tabs if I can do that. Let me figure this out. Yeah, it's probably going to be a little bit of a pain to switch through all these tabs, so I'll just reiterate basically what it was. But let's see, where was this? Basically, G-Man had replied to me on Skype. Oh, there we go. There it is. And what was it? I think he told, I'm not sure, but I think he told Faithful that that he was willing to debate, and Faithful must have told me, because then I have this message I sent him on February 8th that said, thanks for agreeing to debate, can a saved person end up in the lake of fire? And then I gave him the format. I said, let me know what you think. He said, it's fine, what day are you looking to do this? And then I think we had planned on a few weeks or whatnot, and he, because we needed preparation time. And so I got back to him a few times, and basically he had said how he was okay with the debate. Sorry, it's confusing. I got 4 windows, and it's kind of confusing to track basically where it was. But originally, yeah, he called me on Skype, and he was saying, oh, blah, 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 so you want to do this debate and everything? And I said, sure. And then and he said, what are we going to be debating? And I told him the title, and he said, well, I take issue with that. And his problem was, by saying, can a saved person end up in the lake of fire, it was kind of nonsensical, right? Because if you're saved, you're not going to end up in the lake of fire. So I understood where he was going with that. And then he said, no, what you want to debate is, can a person lose their salvation? And I was a little shocked, because usually when I had asked his opinion on that in the past, do you believe a person can lose their salvation? He would say, no, because Scripture doesn't use that. And I said, so when he suggested that to me, I said, well, yeah. And I said, are you okay with that being the title? And he said, yeah. So I was like, okay, great. So then actually on that post, the G+ post I put, let me see here. Oh yeah, I said, update, G-Man agrees, and the title has been changed to, can a person lose their salvation? It should be happening on Faithful's channel in a few weeks, Lord willing. And that was all the conversation really that we had. I just said, are you okay with Faithful moderating? He said, yes. So there were no rules that were set out. I had seen Faithful on his channel. He has moderated other people's debates. And he seemed to do a good job. He knows how to keep time. He knows how to introduce each person and that person. So I didn't feel the need to give him instructions. I figured, okay, he knows how to do it. And then we went into our hangout. And in the past, when he had moderated other people's hangouts or debates, he had asked questions to both participants. And then he came out, and I didn't know if he was going to ask a question, honestly, but then he asked a question he posed to two of us, so I wasn't really surprised. I thought he might even pose a question that would be more difficult for me and not for G-Man after that, but I didn't know what he was going to do. I just figured he's another person, he's asking a question. I wanted to have Q&A enabled so anybody could ask questions, so I figured I don't see any problem with Faithful himself asking a question. And that was really it. And then you guys know the rest of the aftermath, but so there was really no idea of rules being set up. Oh yeah, the only other thing that I do want to remember is the day before we were going to set up the hangout, I got in contact with Faithful to kind of schedule a few of these things, and I believe I Skyped G-Man. I said, hey, the hangout's ready to be, or the debate's ready to be set up by Faithful tomorrow, and then he said something like, I don't want a moderator, and I was kind of like, what? Like, I already planned it. We planned this thing the whole time. You already agreed to that. And so I was kind of distressed about that, and I contacted Faithful, and Faithful was like, okay, well, let's call all three people and put them all in the same room, which we did, and we decided to move forward with that. I honestly didn't know what the issue was, and then the day of the debate, Faithful had said, he said, all right, so just to confirm, we're debating, can a person lose their salvation? And then G-Man says, it's like, no, we're not debating that. And I was like, what? Like, you're the one who suggested the title. And then so then we basically kind of what did we do? We compromised, right? And we said, okay, we can title it, eternal versus conditional security. I didn't really make a big deal at that point. I was just like, let's just get the ball rolling and do it. So, that was my experience. I just wanted to lay that out there so that people know, certainly my side of the story and how I remember things. And I guess I'm done.
Right. Sean, real quick, at any point in time, did G-Man put forth a stipulation that I couldn't ask him any questions, or that during the Q&A portion?
Well, yeah, there was virtually, I don't remember him making any stipulations on you prior to the debate. The first thing that came out is, and it's in the video, is when you said, when you had talked about, okay, we got our first question here, and then he made an issue and he said, no, I want to know who's asking the questions.
Right.
But yeah, as far as before the debate, there was nothing that I'm aware of.
Right.
All right, so to make sure that this doesn't turn into just us making this a Christian version of Talking You Know What Tuesdays, sponsored by J.D. Kane, let's do this. How about, since Sean and Faithful are here and they're the main people that have had to encounter this, how about question and answers from the people that are in here about this, and so, questions people will actually answer, So, who wants to go first?
Crickets.
Don't everybody rush forward at once.
I was just about to get those crickets.
Well, I actually have to take off here in just a second. I just wanted to make a quick note then before I did head out. First, Sean, I may disagree with you on some stuff, but you did a good job in that debate. I will say that. You did well in that. Faithful, you have the patience of a saint, my friend. I don't think I could have put up with that as long as you did. I mean, honestly, there were a few eyebrow-raising moments, but by the time that thing ended, I figured my eyebrows were going to become part of my hairline. it was pretty, like I said, eye-opening.
Right.
But yeah, both of you, good job. And like Christian Anarchist was saying, I was thinking about it during the beginning parts of the debate, because he G-Man shows a little bit of that, what James White calls Calvinist derangement syndrome. I was thinking about at the beginning of that, maybe setting up a debate with him about Calvinism, and then the end happened, and I said, yeah, I think I'm going to take a second thought on that. All right, well, listen, I will let everybody go, because as I said before, theology at 55 miles an hour is not good. So everybody take care, and God bless all.
Yeah, same to you. God bless.
Shalom. All right, so does anyone else got a question, or am I going to need to sound the crickets again?
Well, mine isn't a sort of a question in a way. I mean, this is, I think, something that we've all watched this. We've all watched this happening, and I think we've all seen this a gradual deterioration. And I have to say, I mean, I've been messaging people because I've been concerned. And is this going to be too little too late? I mean, my concern is that having watched this going on for as long as it has done, and I'm not just talking about last night, but my concern is that there have been times I've felt that I'm watching someone who, for whatever reason, is in pain. I don't mean physical pain, but has been needing help. I'm not in a position to be able to give that help.
When you say help, do you mean in the sense that maybe he's going through something personal in his life, and maybe he's taking out his anger on the wrong people when he goes into these rooms or when he hosts his hangouts?
I honestly don't know. I'll just plead ignorance on that. I honestly don't know, but it's just struck me that watching that sort of thing, that's not a happy person. With that amount of anger that he can't keep in, there's something else. I mean, and I've put out messages to those that he considers friends to say, please help him. There's something's going on. I don't know what it is. And I'm just very concerned that it's gone too far now, and that there is going to be no way back. And I don't think he's a bad person. I really don't.
Right, and I know you guys have had your issues. The back and forth.
I'm finding this really difficult to say, because it would be so much easier for me to just say, look, can't stand the guy, don't care, end of story. But that's not true. That's not true.
If I could be perfectly honest with you, Fiona, this is me being very honest. Like, obviously, there are a lot of things that I wouldn't agree with you on, based on, but even then, I've never felt that I had to attack you or to try to tear you down in order to establish, because I've noticed that he has this thing that it's like he targets specific people, and it's like you have been one of those people that I've noticed that he just targets, and he's relentless. He'll just make hangout after hangout after hangout after hangout, and I know it goes both ways. Let's be honest, because I know that you've also said things about him, and he said things about you. But what I've never been able to understand in my whole time in this community. I haven't been in here this long. I've only been in the community since late 2014. But I never quite understood the whole thing about let's attack Fiona. Let's go after Fiona. Let's, that never sat well with me. And again, I don't agree with a lot of the things that you hold to, but I never felt that need to go and attack you. And whenever I seem to bring up this whole thing of, well, why don't you have a one-on-one with her? If you have any sort of disagreements, why don't you practice Matthew 18? If I believe it's go to your brother in private and discuss whatever it is, and
Yeah.
he would get
I've done
upset.
that.
But the thing is that he would get upset because he would say that I don't know, and the thing is, and again, I'm not trying to make this a slander fest on G-Man. I'm just saying, but like the thing that you're talking about, where he's just got this anger, it's like this, it's like it's bottled up inside, and it's just like like just ready to explode at any moment. I've noticed that too, and it's like I don't understand. I really don't. There's certain things I can understand. He's passionate about certain things, as I am, but it's just the way that he goes about doing it. It's the method to the madness, so to speak.
Yeah, I in the first year and a bit of knowing G-Man, I went to him privately, and I actually remember sitting in a private off-air hangout with him, and I was in tears because I just felt for him so much, and he couldn't work out why I was sitting sobbing in this hangout, and I was trying to explain to him. So 4 times I approached him privately in private off-air hangouts. He's never come to me, never, not once. And it's been me going to him to say, what is the issue you have with me? It should have been him coming to me, not me having to, and that is something that I've struggled to get my head around. And also, when I think the reason he has given for not coming to me privately is because you only do that with another Christian, and I don't count as one. But he will then hold me to that standard, and that I should go to him privately. But I have done that, and I got nowhere. But I have contacted others. Sean knows I contacted him at one point. We chatted, and just saying, please help him.
Right. Well, the thing
I'm too angry sometimes.
Right.
I've got an anger problem, and I freely admit I have. It's something I've got to work on.
Right.
And also I know that if I try and speak to G-Man, that just rubs him up the wrong way.
Well, Fiona, can I say something though? There's something about this community, and I've been wanting to say this for the longest time on air. This G+ community, our side of the fence in the G+ community, the so-called great debate community, this is one of the most toxic environments I've ever seen in my life. There are people in this community on both sides of the fence that are just absolutely toxic, and it's almost like a cesspool of people wanting to argue one with the other, and it's like the worst possible environment for someone like G-Man to be in, and I'll even say someone like you, because this is a terrible. This is why I personally stopped going into Nadia Chambers' rooms. I stopped going into all the atheist rooms because I couldn't stand the toxic environment from both sides, not just the atheists, but also the people on our side, on the theist side, on the Christian side. Very toxic. And it would just get to the point where it was overwhelming, and it would make me feel like horrible afterwards. You got.
You see, this is. The one thing we've all got in common is that we all have utter faith in Christ, and we should all be rejoicing. Right. And we may have doctrinal differences, but the fact is, I'm looking at you. You and I have got huge doctrinal differences, but I celebrate the fact that you have utter faith in Christ, just like I have. I think that's fantastic.
It is.
We should celebrate these similarities.
Right, Fiona. But the thing is that but again, I just think that why don't we have more fellowship rooms in I mean, why is it more so just hangouts to argue about, you name it, whether it's creation versus evolution, this and that. Although I feel strongly for creationism, but I just don't
Yeah.
feel the need to go into a room and argue with people for 4 hours or 8 hours or however many hours. And some of these people will do it from the morning to the evening. It's like they're in hangouts all day long. I wonder, like, how do some of these people have jobs? I'm like,
Well,
all they do is go into hangouts to argue. But the point is that it brings out the worst in people. And to bring it back to this topic, I see G-Man getting caught up in it. I see you getting caught up into that, and it's
Yeah.
a toxic environment. It's not healthy. It's like,
And
why not?
that's why I'm going back to the science. That's it. I'm just going back to the science.
yeah, because you're just from what I remember, you were a biologist or something.
That's right. Uh-huh.
Right,
And that's what I started out trying to deal with, just purely the science for anybody who's got questions. But I do have faith, so obviously that came up in conversation. But I think it's hard to. I don't know how to describe it. Somebody else go while I think about this.
But all right. So do you want to? Is it okay if someone else asks a question? Because we got Reason and Jade that's wanting to.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Reason. Who's your question for? And Reason, we're not getting anything.
Well, while he's fixing his mic, or while they're fixing their mic, I just wanted to finish my thought, though, from earlier.
Okay.
The one thing about this community, and I'm not trying to make myself seem like a holier than thou figure, like, ooh, I'm better than everybody, but just for my personal peace of mind, I've been keeping away from Nadia's rooms or this person's room or that person's room, whoever it is, and even some of the Christian rooms where it's just all about arguing. I really just stick to my channel, or Ken Jones. He has his Talking Christ Tuesdays, and there's a Bible study that another person has on Saturdays, and I go into their room, and it's very peaceful in those rooms.
Yeah.
I really just stay to those rooms because it's like, this is what this community does, man. I'm telling you, this arguing and fighting. And now it's one thing to have a debate. I thought that we were gonna have a cordial debate between two people. I thought G-Man had turned a new leaf, supposedly. Even though the incident with Jade really was just, I mean, that made my jaw drop when I saw that. But I wanted to give him a chance. I'm thinking, G-Man, maybe, he's gonna just chill out, but look how that ended up turning out, and I think that, again, he's been in this community a lot longer than the rest of us, and I mean, I just think that he's been taking such a because I'm gonna tell you guys something. As much as I want to just go all out and say, yeah, G-Man's the bad guy, blah blah blah, because I'm not gonna do that, because G-Man brings it on himself, but at the same time, he takes a lot of abuse. You got some of these people calling him the N-word. You got people going all out to disrespect this man. So I can just imagine, if you've been going through that for the past 2 or 3 years, nonstop, over and over and over, that's got to do something to a person psychologically. Maybe that's why he's so aggressive. Maybe that's why he takes out his anger on you guys, or he takes out his anger on a Fiona, or maybe he takes it out on me, or he takes it out on whoever else,
Right. And one thing before Reason tries again, because he said he thinks the mic is good now. I can agree that community can sometimes do some damage, and that's why I'd sometimes prefer to take a break, walk away from the keyboard, because I'm in the real world. This is just something I do to, because apparently when I started, it just was a conversation so I can do Bible studies. Then people just started subscribing for no reason. I was just like, I'm doing this, Inspiring Philosophy is going to be in here. Oh, I'm doing this, Nephilim Free is going to be in here. Here, you guys can just download and use these for yourselves. That's the only reason I'm doing it. And then people just kept subscribing, and then I'm like, I'll actually make a ministry, and it kept growing and growing and growing, and then people wanted to get in contact with me. Some people wanted to ask questions, and I think that was the most interesting travel that I've had, and was one of the most positive things I've ever experienced. That was just unexpected. But one thing I learned also is that there can be negatives. Um, Whenever I became a Calvinist, things started going downhill when I told some of my brothers and sisters in Christ on here that after a certain day, I asked a couple questions about Reformed theology because I was curious. Then I became a Calvinist, and then people were like, they were doing like that "et tu, Brute" uh, kind of thing, like "not you too." Um, so, but some people were like, "Okay, we don't care. I mean, you're cool." Then Calvinists, of course, you can see the Calvinists going, "Yay! Another one joins the dark side." But yes, I'm going to have to give us that stereotype. Come join the dark side. We have cookies, and some of us have beards of the hipsters. But anyways, as the that I need to lighten that up because there are times I've been dealt with so much negativity on the Calvinistic position that people just respond to it so negative and just keep talking about it in such a negative way, like with Preet and Nephilim Free, that I've literally had moments where I just wanted to kill myself over this instance. But of course, like the other times in my past when I've had this, it's just moments of depression that get to me at that moment. And by the time I actually just walk away from the keyboard and listen to some music, because music is my therapy, I'm like, you know what? I just was having a bad diarrhea day and was vomiting a lot, but I'm all over it. I'm better now. It's the bug is over. It's like a bug. You get it occasionally and it sucks.
Mhm.
But once it's over, you're recovered. Your mind, your whole feeling is changed on that. So, I mean, just take a break occasionally. I mean, you don't have to stay on here too much. Some people are going to complain. That's fine. But you have a life. Live it. You only get one of them. All right, so let's do a mic check.
Yeah. Yeah, is it good?
Yeah, you're good, loud and clear.
Okay. Oh,
All right,
thank God, Jesus. Okay. Um, yeah, let's see if I can remember my question now.
all right.
I
Is
don't
it
think it was
Sean? Is
for,
it? Hmm?
no, I was gonna say, I don't think it's for anyone specific, just, I guess, for Sean, maybe Veckel, I guess, anyone that really, has a lot of interaction with G-Man and, like, I guess maybe is friends with him, do you think that the way he goes about, like sometimes the way that he goes about, I don't want to say preaching because sometimes when he gets in hangouts and he does the things that he does, like when, like in the debate, and he gets kind of angry and aggressive, I wouldn't really call that preaching. But when he gets that way, when he gets that way about like sharing his opinion and sharing his message, do you really think that that's helping him, or do you think that's pushing people away? Like, do you think that that's like self-destructive for him?
Sean, did you want to go first, or?
Never mind. I just put it in the chat. Veckel first. So go ahead.
Oh, I didn't even see it. Yeah, as it is with every one of us here, you're always going to have haters. You're always going to have people who disagree with you, and even some imbeciles who are going to resort to name calling, such as I did. But I mean, so that's just the way it is. I think the only flaw in G-Man's ministry uh, is his pride, as it was mentioned. I don't mind the passion that's behind his preaching. It's the pride that suffocates any real meaning to the ministry that he has. When you threaten to blackmail people to say, if you don't do this or if you don't take back this or whatnot, I'm going to expose you to the G plus community, yada yada yada. That is unbiblical. That's unchristian. Um, there's a vast difference between pointing out a doctrinal error in somebody's teaching or pointing out a heretical view on one individual and getting personal with somebody because of something that you disagree with, and you want to just kind of blackmail them by saying, look how many people disagree with you, or look how many people agree with me, over something that's not really essential to the faith at all. There's a vast difference between those two things. So when G-Man is really passionate, with his arms raising and loud talking and stuff, I think a lot of people like that about him. That's one of the things that attracted me to him, is because of his boldness. However, there is that issue with his pride, which is manifested in many ways. And I have to agree with everyone, man. I love G-Man to death. He's brother from another mother. But his behavior at the end of that debate was unbiblical. It was unbiblical, uncalled for, and I think this is a good thing that it's being spoken of here, because what we're doing right now, CA, is a Matthew 18 issue. G-Man has been confronted about this on a number of occasions, and like every one of us, we slip back into our old ways. But G-Man has been going really crazy since the debate. And since he won't receive any correction, this is where we're at now as a church, in the final stage of what we would call biblical correction or confrontation. So G-Man has the opportunity to come into the hangout right now, but this is what it is. So that's my position. Sorry, I didn't mean to be so long-winded.
That's cool. Just want to point out that after hearing Veckel say this, I occasionally keep having to see pictures that someone by the name of a truthmonger puts of putting Veckel and G-Man as a couple in there. If he's watching this, I would recommend doing one where they're having problems, or they're talking about something, or getting a divorce or something like that, because we're at a point where Veckel is disagreeing with G-Man on something here, so they have these. All right, it's happened before, so don't make Veckel out like he's gonna agree with Kisses, but like he's his slave or something all the time. Veckel will just.
I told you, there's always going to be haters. I told you.
Haters are going to be haters, and that was in the Bible first. But besides my weird randomness of humor, Sean, did you want to answer first, or can we go to Jade with her question?
Oh yeah, no, he asked me, so I'll go ahead and answer. Yeah, certainly. I mean, I think his aggressiveness can push people away. Of course, it depends on, because being aggressive is not a bad thing all the time, right? I mean, you can be aggressive in a way that will benefit somebody. So it really comes down to the situation. But needless to say, I would not choose to conduct myself as he often does with people. Whether that's right or wrong, well, that's another story. But that's certainly how I feel. And on the flip side too, the funny thing is that God is sovereign. So even if we as people do stupid things, or things that offend people, God's still going to use those for His purposes. So yeah, I think that vaguely answered your question.
Sound like a Calvinist.
We're not going to make this hang about that tonight. Okay. Alright, so is that all, Sean?
Yeah, I'm good.
Alright, so Jade, who is your question for, and why?
Well, first, can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can hear you just fine, dear.
Okay, secondly, does anyone have a bullhorn? Sorry, I couldn't resist.
No bullhorns here.
No,
I got one the size of a door in my closet, so I can go get.
No, one thing I wanted to say with all the criticism of G-Man, let's not forget that he just recently had a hang-up with Xbox that went really well. So he can have a conversation with people without losing it. And in this debate with Sean, I did not see the entire debate, but what I did see seemed to be, pretty respectful from all parties. And yet, at the end, it was this explosive reaction from him to Faithful simply asking a question. And it's like Fiona said, there's this like something else going on with him, that he reacts that extreme to something that minor, and it concerns me too. Um, Although, as Feckle has pointed out, and others have pointed out, he does have haters, and he has been picked on and called names for a very, very long time. But that's because he, makes I just can't think of makes a target of himself. And he's a big wrestling fan, and I think that's, yeah, I don't care for wrestling, so I don't watch it, but from what I understand, that's kind of the way he's approaching sort of things, with his, loud and yeah, and that's that passion is great. That's fantastic. But he has to temper his pride, and he has to really learn to back down some. He's still making excuses for using the bullhorn. He still makes excuses for lots of other things. And if you're listening, G-Man, I don't hate you. I don't even dislike you. I am concerned about you because you do lose it so easily. And I have a temper. I know what that's like. And I have to really make an effort here to try to be patient sometimes. And one of the things I've learned is just don't go into hangouts when you are in a really impatient, mood, because it's not going to go well with my temper. So if I could say anything to him, I would say, we know you can have a reasonable conversation. We've seen that. I mean, just a recent one with Xbox. We know you can engage in a debate without, losing your temper and having a temper tantrum. Could you please just try to look at yourself a little more carefully and try to realize that, there are people who would really like to listen to you and to have a conversation with you, but I, for one, feel I cannot. Because in that hangout with Fiona, if you look at, she featured you on the screen while I was talking and other people were talking, and you weren't paying attention to what anyone was saying. It was very clear you weren't. And you can't have a conversation with someone if they don't pay attention. You can't have a conversation with someone if their mind is closed and they just hear a word and are automatically against that. If someone says a word and you think, oh, they're wrong completely, without actually listening to what they say. And I understand that myself too. I'll hear someone say something and I want to jump in, and I have to try to check myself and let them finish. People don't always go where you think they're going to go with what they're telling you. And some people, I have a tendency to tell a story before I get to the point. And if someone is impatient and they just would honestly tell me, oh, Jade, please just get to the point, I do that. I don't know what else to say, except that, I wish you would just, I know how difficult it is to practice patience, believe me, I do. If you could try to practice a little more patience, try to listen more to what people are saying, try to give them more time to finish what they're saying. And I don't think things would be so contentious. I'm really here, I came here in the first place for the science, because I love science. And we have lots of wonderful conversations about science with people who are excited about science and want to learn about science. Why can't we have these same conversations about Jesus and about God? Well, we're excited about how much we love God and how wonderful Jesus is and what Jesus has meant to our lives, without people getting tied down or upset about somebody being a Calvinist. Who cares if someone's a Calvinist, even if that isn't evil? Oh, sorry. that was for you, see, I couldn't resist. But or arguing that Catholics aren't Christians. You know what? I don't care if you believe that we Catholics aren't Christian. I don't. It's meaningless to me. It honestly is. Can we just avoid those sorts of things and have real conversations from the heart about the things that we care about most, just like I have with people about science? That's all I want to say. Thanks.
I'd like to add something too. I've had probably not as many interactions with G-Man as most of you guys, but in a lot of the conversations that I've had with him where I've actually like started to speak to him, because I most of the time just like sit in the background and say things occasionally and don't really get too involved in discussion because I like to listen to people and try and understand their like reasons as to why they believe the things that they believe. He's told me countless times that uh that atheists are just like closed-minded, that they don't actually want to have these debates and discussions, and that it's basically just this endless cycle of I'm right, you're wrong, I'm right, you're wrong. And it's become kind of a little bit insulting to me because I'm actually starting to become more open to these ideas, and I don't even think I'd go so far as to call myself an atheist anymore because I started in this community as an atheist, but as I become more open to these ideas and I've had more discussions with people like G-Man and others, I'm thinking that there could be something to this, and I'm not closed off. And I've never been one to say, "Oh, God doesn't exist and the Bible is wrong." It's always been a possibility, and that possibility is becoming greater and greater every time I talk to people. But when G-Man does things like with the bullhorn, or he just flips out for seemingly no reason about something as simple as a question, and he tells people like me that, oh, you're spending all your time in this community and you are just closed-minded, and you don't care about these arguments, and atheists are trying to kill me and all this stuff. It seems like he is the one that doesn't really want to have these conversations, at least most of the times, because he did have that conversation on Xbox, and it turned out really well, and it was very cordial, and it didn't go wrong, nothing went wrong. But I feel as though he doesn't extend that to most other people.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Can I say something real quick?
Sure, go ahead, brother.
I don't want to sound superstitious, as most Christians are considered by those in the non-believing community. However, we do see plenty of examples of God's will or negative things occurring as a result of going outside of God's will. There's so many places mentioned in Scripture. I mean, we can talk about the issue with with King Saul, how he went against God's will in 1 Samuel. He's supposed to wait 7 days until he gave an offering, and he didn't wait. We see Isaiah chapter 10, the Syrians were sent to attack Israel, and because they were boasting in the things that they did in themselves, God ended up judging them for it. So, I mean, there's several examples where God's will is violated by fallible human beings, and as a result, we see some negative things coming out. And I think that should apply. Actually, not that I think. I know that it should apply also for those of us who are believers today, especially for those who hold to the conditional salvation issue. If you believe that you can lose your salvation, then with that mindset, you should have even more of a bigger responsibility than those of us who don't adhere to conditional salvation, to make sure that you are following God's will in every aspect of your life. So when you are, for instance, saying that you have a ministry because you want people to make a decision for Christ, well, don't you think that when you behave unruly and turn people off from listening to you, that you're doing your ministry a disservice? I mean, Paul says in 1 Corinthians chapter 9, he says that I've become all things to all men so that I might by all means save some. So if we're going to take that position to mean that my ministry is what solely brings people to Christ, if that's the position that we're going to take, which I personally don't, then that means that I would have to also check my attitude, make sure that I'm trying my best to practice humility. I'm not saying that we're going to be perfect in it, but at least we have to strive for it. And when I have a group of people, not just one person, but when I have a group of people telling me that they're upset with me because of my behavior and it was unbiblical, I need to take a step back and say, you know what? This person's a non-believer, but this person's also a believer, and both of them are saying the same exact thing about my behavior on this day. Maybe God is trying to tell me something. So, but when we refuse to heed those type of warnings, those type of signs, if you, and again, I don't want to sound superstitious, then hangouts like this and other situations will continue to arise, continuing to expose the folly of a person's behavior. So just wanted to put that out.
Mm-hmm. And thank you, Brother Reckel, for that. And I would just like to say this because I was planning on doing this, but I didn't get the time to. But happy late St. Patrick's Day. Here is me dressed as a leprechaun. So everyone get a good gander at that.
You know, green is the color of the devil.
Screenshotted.
Who screenshotted that?
Me.
Oh, well, thank you. I definitely love picking the hat. I was trying to decide whether I want the wrapping to be light green or pink, because real men wear pink. But of course, I decided to go with mostly green. So, happy late St. Patrick's Day, everyone. And now we're back to the gothic emo black jacket.
DA, I gotta say, man, I've been wanting to say this for a while now, but I never got a chance to get into your hangouts enough. I really love how you host these hangouts, man. You say some weird stuff, and I think that's one of the reasons why my wife married me is because I'm a weirdo. So you need to pray for her because she has mental problems, and the reason why I say it is because she married me. So
I'll make sure to pray 20 minutes in the closet just for that. Okay. But anyways, I gotta take my medicine, so I will see y'all later. I'll be right back.
I must say that I'm actually surprised with this hangout simply because Christian Anarchist himself was brought up in the debate, and he hasn't even brought that up at all. I was actually that definitely surprised me during the debate when G-Man started asking me if about people who are on the G+ community. I was kind of thinking, is that really relevant to our debate? But that was his style. So perhaps we'll get into that when he returns.
I could be wrong, but it seems as though G-Man is sort of this a little bit of aggression towards Christian Anarchists anytime he talks to him. I don't know exactly what that's about, if they had some sort of spat before, but it seems as though it's really easy for him to get angry at anarchists in conversations.
Is there anybody that is able to talk to G-Man?
Well, I thought I was making headway, and Fiona, I gather you saw me and Spackle even try and have a discussion with G-Man, and then he boots Spackle out, and then I get booted out later.
Yeah, no, I'm wondering about anybody in his sort of more inner circle that he is willing to listen to, because whether this hangout is going to have any effect, I seriously doubt it. But I'm just wondering if there is anybody there that thinks that they would be able to take him aside and talk to him.
I would think Veckel would be the one to do that.
Well, let's not put everything on poor Veckel.
No, that's not fair.
Did you guys see his? So after the megaphone incident, he made a video defending his actions about the megaphone. And I think it was Jade that was you got really upset because it was so loud and yeah. Anyway, he said, I'm paraphrasing what he said. He said, "This is my style. This is I'm meant to wake people up or something, and I'm meant to be contentious. And a lot of Christians on Google Hangouts are very weak and like pushovers or something. and so therefore I don't think he's going to take any advice from anyone, let alone us on the internet. But in a locality sense, I don't think he's going to take any advice, even from a local church. I think he's his own ministry, really, and that's very unfortunate.
Yeah.
The only other thing I would say is one of the problems with you, General, and Spackle trying to talk to G-Man is he had opened that hangout because he was angry at what happened at the end of the debate, and when he does this, he has these what I would call reactive hangouts. He's angry about something, so he opens a hangout to bitch. And G-Man, if you're listening, in the future, count to 100, or better yet, 1,000, before you open one of these hangouts, because
Scream into a pillow.
You're really not in the right frame of mind to host a hangout and to interact with other people. You're just a little too passionate. And if you just say, okay, folks, come back in a half hour, I'm going to have a hangout and go for a walk or pet your cat, play with the dog, something like that, calm down a bit, then open the hangout and bitch. Because it's okay to bitch. That's not what I'm saying, and I think that's not what a lot of people are saying. It's what happens when you do have a bitch fest. So just, as I said, tell everybody, okay, I'm going to have a hangout, I'm going to talk all about this, come back in a half hour or whatever, 45 minutes, and we'll hash this out. But cool down a bit, because you're just really not as rational. I hate to use that term because that's not really what I mean. You're just too passionate, and you're letting your emotions lead you rather than letting your mind lead you. That's all I want to say, because you just weren't listening again.
Yeah, that's
okay.
I think a big problem. But could I just say one thing?
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, it was you talked about when he's had the hangout about the bullhorn, etc. And he said that not a single person approached him in private to tell him that what he did was wrong. And he boasted about that nobody had come to him in private. So therefore, what he did wasn't wrong. You see, Ken, he left his message in public. But G-Man then boasted nobody had gone to him in private to say to him that what he did with the bullhorn was wrong.
That's right, boy. That's what Ozzy said.
Yeah, and I know that some people did, and I know that. And this is, I think this is a problem when he's going to say, no, a single one of my brothers in Christ came to me in private and said that was the wrong thing to do. The problem arises because if anybody does go to him in private and say that, then by definition they are no longer a brother in Christ, and therefore it doesn't count, i.e. it's no true Scotsman. I mean, I only know of one occasion when someone has had any luck in trying to take him aside, and it was Veckel that succeeded, where others had failed. And while I wouldn't say let you put it all on Veckel, because that's not fair to say, Veckel, you've got to deal with this. No, I'm not saying that. But it's trying to find somebody that he will actually listen to and realise that people aren't saying these things because they have something against them. When they say that you've done something wrong, they're not saying that because they hate you. They're not saying that because they've got an axe to grind with you. And that maybe, just maybe, they're saying it because you did do something wrong. that seems to be what nobody can get through to him on that, and
yeah, and I'd like to say something here publicly, just to be clear. G-Man, I forgive you for using the bullhorn. I know you did not intentionally mean to hurt me.
this is really
I'm
difficult.
going to be controversial here. I really appreciate the love and support that after all that's been happening, that all of us in this room are, reaching out basically to G-Man, and that is Christian virtue. But being an Australian, I just have to wonder, like, is G-Man, is he, you know how the usual phrase that you see on his comments on his videos, he went full G-Man. Will he ever change? Will he ever change? Is my question. Like, it's good that we are demonstrating Christian love by reaching out, but and I'm hoping he sees this. But I want to challenge him on that other notion as well. That is he going to continue to be a full G-man, like the phrase that you see in the comments.
I'll tell you something that I learned a while ago that was kind of helpful to me, and that was in the aspect of it's kind of twofold. But I put them together. One of them is just like, you do your part, right? If somebody needs correction, right, you go to them and you give them that correction, and then they have that correction, and basically all you can do at that point, at least from the Christian standpoint, is just pray to God. And one thing that I had heard a long time ago that I try to implement, I think it's really good, is that, like, if a situation is really bothering you or stressing you out, and this person is constantly popping up in your head, and just irritating you and agitating you, every time that pop comes into your head or every time that they agitate you, pray to God for that person. And from the Christian, I think that's ultimately, I think God might put us in these situations because he wants us to draw close to him and rely on him and not be so self-reliant. So that's at least what I try to implement.
You know what, Sean? You took the words right out of my mouth. I was just going to say that that when we as Christians experience these difficult individuals in our lives, what's the first thing that we should be doing is taking it directly to Christ, and abiding by the standards that he's given us in Scripture, rather than trying to take things out of our own hands, and try to handle things our way. So this is actually a good humbling experience, I would say, specifically for those that are professing to be of Christ. I can't say the same for atheists because, for obvious reasons, but for those who are professing to be of Christ, it is a good exercise of faith and a practice of humility when we encounter individuals that are very difficult to us. So I totally agree with what Sean said.
By the way, can you guys hear?
However,
Yeah,
that doesn't excuse G-Man's behavior, of course, but it is what it is, and we have the standards according to Matthew 18, Galatians 6:1, and other areas in Scripture on how we're supposed to approach these type of situations. Yeah.
Right.
I understand that.
Right. I find it ironic that. By the way, can you guys hear me? Am I coming in loud and clear? I find it a bit ironic that the first time that I entered into one of these G Plus Hangouts, it was Xbox's channel, and it was actually G-Man. He invited me in there, and he ended up getting booted out, and immediately went and made a hangout about how he didn't like what was going on in that other hangout, and I always found that to be a bit telling, because it was like, well, I can understand a person being upset because they got booted out, but why make an entire hangout just to talk about You know, I know that might sound a bit hypocritical because here we are making a hangout to talk about this whole G-Man incident, but I just
Yeah, but I think this is I think a serious issue though,
no, it
because I
is,
think
it is,
there's
it is.
more going on.
It is, but the thing about the whole incident was I spoke to him before he made the hangout. I mind you, I had known G-Man all of a week up until that point, and I was pleading with him like, no, don't make a hangout. Why are you gonna go make a hangout? No, no, no. I know what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna put people on blast, and like, uh, you know. It was a bit strange, and I didn't quite understand it at the time, but I think that as I've gotten to know him and had different interactions with him and we've butted heads quite a few times. Veckel knows this for a fact. G-Man and I have clashed on many different occasions in private, and but yet I've always gone out of my way to just let it be water under a bridge, and just like G-Man, like like even now, if he's listening to this or if he listens to this, I don't know if he's
I'm
gonna
just
come in here.
wondering, is is G-Man a street preacher?
Yes.
He was a street preacher. He did open air ministry for a while there. I know Ken also did it, but G-Man definitely
And
was. Yeah.
G-Man, is he actually 40 plus years old?
Hmm.
Can you repeat that? I didn't hear that
Is
last.
he over 40 years of age?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Because I only like a couple of days ago found that he's that age. I personally thought he was maybe
Oh, actually, no,
mid
no, no, no.
20s. So
He's actually 40. He's 40 on the dot. Yeah. I think he turns.
okay.
I think he turns 41 this year. But and I hate to put his well, then again, I mean everybody who knows him knows his age. But the thing
Okay.
about
So
right.
yeah,
But
I'm just trying to reason out his behavior. That's all.
okay. The thing I was just gonna say is that even now, if he listens to this or if he comes in here, hopefully he comes in here, we can have this discussion with him one on one. But I really feel like he needs to give up that bitterness or whatever he has because I have apologized to him in the past when it's because I've there have been times where I can admit that I've criticized him a little too much, and nobody likes to be criticized, right? And but I've apologized to him, and when he's the one thing that I have noticed about him is that, and I have to admit this, I don't think he's ever really apologized to me when he has done things to me or said things about me, and I don't know why he's never felt the need to apologize, and he's said that I guess he said that he apologized to Jade for the bullhorn incident. Jade, I'm not sure if he actually did that. He told me that he apologized, but
He didn't apologize privately, as far as I know. I did put a note that he may have sent me a Skype message, but my Skype isn't working very well.
okay.
But he, other than that, no. He did give an apology in this one hang up. It's really half-assed apology, and it started with him asking Cliff Jumper if I really had a hearing problem.
Yeah.
It was actually a rather insulting apology. That's the one way I could put it.
Yeah.
But I kind of figured that's the best you're going to get for G-Man because he finds it very hard to admit that he's wrong in anything. So I'm going to accept his apology as half-assed as it was.
Right. Dealing with G-Man reminds me a lot of dealing with my older brother. My eldest brother has the same problem with pride, and he finds it very difficult to admit when he's wrong. And I think, and I guess that's why I try to practice a little more patience with him. But it just gets to the point where sometimes he's just so abrasive. And again, even now, I if he felt that I disrespected him, even though I didn't, I apologize. But I have, I can't think of anything that I could have said that could have made him react the way that he did. And Fiona, you're right. I think maybe that, I really think that there really might be something to what you were saying, that maybe he's going through something in his personal life.
Yeah.
Or,
Well, I just wondered if there's been something going on for quite some time now, because this isn't a sudden thing that's happened. This has been like a slow, gradual deterioration in his behaviour.
Mhm.
I mean, in the last formal debate that I saw him in, it was on his own channel, and it was Ocean that was moderating. And G-Man sacked him as moderator and took over the moderating himself.
That's strange.
Now,
You know.
and that's not a common occurrence. This has been going on for quite some time, this slow deterioration. There have been more meltdowns. The meltdowns used to be the rare events. They're now everyday events, these meltdowns. And I don't think, yes, I know he gets a hard time online. I think a lot of it he does bring on himself, but I think saying he's been getting a hard time online for a while it still doesn't explain it, given that he's been doing the same to me for like 2.5 years. And I've not started having meltdowns and screaming at people and all the rest of it. Oh, there's the occasion, but do you know what I mean? We can't get on with everybody. But that doesn't excuse what we do. But I think there's something in the background that's been going on for quite some time. And I'm hoping it's not his faith. I really am. But he's just become so defensive. And the fact that he won't listen to what people are saying. He won't let them finish. And so he then ends up attacking something they've not even said. He hasn't grasped what their argument actually is. I watched that happen last night. And I watched it happen again today. And so he just keeps tilting at these windmills all the time, attacking a position that someone doesn't even hold because he's never let them finish what they're saying. The patience isn't there to let someone finish what they're saying before he has to attack like a Rottweiler. That aggression. And this is what's leading them into all these straw man arguments and all the rest of it.
You know, Fiona, now that you mention that, there's another thing that I've noticed that he does. When he's upset at someone, even if he's in a room full of atheists, and that individual is attacking the person who he has a disagreement with, it'll be like he will completely forget that person is a non-believer or whatever it is, and whatever disagreement he had prior with that person goes out the window, and it becomes almost a case of the enemy of my enemy is my friend.
Yes,
and automatically
he's done that.
Right. And I've noticed that. I've noticed that he has done that multiple times in the past with different people, and I find that to be very strange. It's just like G-Man, like,
Yeah.
you know.
He did that to me about 2 weeks ago.
Right.
And I mean, to be
With
honest,
that one with the ex-Muslim, I can't remember her name.
I don't go. I think her
Right,
name
and
is.
then he went on this whole thing about how I'm gonna that's right, get her. You know, like just a moment ago they were disagreeing, and now that she's attacking you and he dislikes you for whatever reason, that now it's like, okay, now I'm gonna buddy up with her so we can both double team Fiona or double team so and so, or
I think you were talking about guns.
It was a very strange thing to watch. I mean, I know that I was talking to her, but I was watching G-Man's reaction to it, and he was, every time she asked a question that he thought was a gotcha about my faith, he was ecstatic. You know, he wanted to see my faith torn down. And I find that really sad. When it gets to that stage, when it is that personal, that you want to see someone's faith torn down, this, I lose all understanding. And the other thing that I'll say is that I now know of at least 4 people, 4, who have turned from their faith after watching G-Man's antics. I know of 4 people. Now it's not a big number, but it's still 4 people.
Yeah.
And what is more important, and I made a post about this today. What is more important? Saying nothing to G-Man because it'll hurt his feels, or people's souls? What's more important? When people are walking away from Christ, what do you do?
Mm-hmm.
What do you do? That's the concern I have. I've seen people who have been honestly inquiring. They've asked questions, and they've asked them honestly and openly, and the questions have been seen as an attack, and they've been blown out the water, and they've just said, okay,
Yeah.
then bye-bye.
So, yeah,
That,
Fiona,
that worries me.
you've hit the nail on the head. That's why I probably 10, 15 minutes ago, I asked the question about will he ever change from being, quote unquote, a full G man, especially in an honest, open dialogue about certain issues that Shackler and myself brought up on, slavery and certain, what does it mean that, what does the Bible actually mean when it says it's God's word in light of, say, borrowed laws from the common land, and so when I ask questions like that, just to, think outside the box, like don't have this blind, like a horse blinders on, and this is the way it is, and no questions asked. It comes across as if that I'm attacking him, and that's if you notice, Fiona, he kept then trying to wonder if I'm a Christian or if I'm a Roman Catholic or and it's interesting that I said I'm an Arminian like you. Well, not ultimately I'm not fully an Arminian, but he didn't know what to say to that, and then it kept turning around to he kept moving the goalposts, and then finally he removed me from the conversation.
Yeah, and before that, he said, show me in the Bible where it says that. That was like his go-to. Show me in the Bible where it says that these other,
And I was showing it in the Bible.
You were talking about times before it.
Yeah.
Is it the same with today? Somebody was talking about before any of this was ever written down.
When it comes to, and I'm being honest, I'm not trying to boast, but when it comes to intellectual dialogue, he just seems to put pause, and I can't think, and therefore I'm going to start chucking us sad, and or booting people out. And you're right, Fiona, that is a dangerous way of going about things, because if there are people who happen to listen to that who are Christian, there is a possibility that that person can be discouraged. Obviously, that person should take stock in not allowing someone like G-Man to make them lose faith. But there is a possibility that people may be thinking that, and so it's good that we're confronting him on this. I think.
Yeah, and I wonder if. I mean, see, the difficulty for me is that I've made the decision for myself that I am going to have absolutely nothing to do with them until there is some sort of change, because I'm not prepared to put up with that anymore. And if he's not going to listen to what anybody says or advises or tries to explain to him, I mean, I'm not the one to do that, because, as I say, every time I open my mouth, it just gets his hackles up. So I've made the decision that I've shaken the dust from my feet. I don't have another option. This being in this hangout is a last-ditch attempt to try and get through.
And if G-Man is listening, I would just like to ask him to please listen with open ears. Don't jump to conclusions. Don't assume that people are out to get you or trying to be mean to you or say bad things about you. I believe everyone in here is being honest and making an honest, good faith attempt to try to talk to you, because you seem impenetrable otherwise. That's all I can say. Please listen. And I don't want to have, I will not go on his channel. And I would not want to have a conversation with him unless there was a strong moderator in there. And I'm not even talking about a debate. I'm just talking about a moderator for a conversation, because of the talking over people and because of the not listening to people. G-Man, you could learn a lot. You could probably teach a lot. But I don't know that, because you don't give anyone the chance. Well, you don't give many people the chance to actually converse with you or to listen to you.
And I think somebody said this earlier on, and I said it in a previous hangout as well. G-Man has a gift. G-Man can go on camera and he can talk and he can preach. He has a gift for doing that. He's a lot more articulate. He's a lot more articulate than I am. That's a gift that he has. And he can. Sorry?
And don't forget how he handles the Hebrew Israelites, because not only can he talk about the doctrine, he actually deals with these people. He meets these crazy people and actually converses with these crazy people.
But I mean, that's like spitting in the wind. But he can, with this gift that he has. I mean, he could preach brilliantly, but every time I hear it, preaching to the choir ministries, and then he's talking about somebody, and I don't hear any preaching. And then at the end we get this, repent while you still have time, after an hour of bad-mouthing someone. And that doesn't win you any friends, doing that to people. That's not preaching. G-Man could preach brilliantly if he put his mind to it. But until he gets out of this cycle that he's in.
Yeah, imagine. There's something that just came to mind, that his catchphrase is "read your Bible and do what it says," right? And I think about what Christ said. He said, "Love thy God above all things, love thy neighbor as thyself." Those two commandments are in actuality one commandment, because they're all centered on love. And sometimes when I see his attitude, I wonder if he thinks about, because I know he loves his God above all things. He loves Jesus. But does he love his neighbor as himself? And that is the kicker, because it's like, how in the world can you say you love God, but you mistreat people who you're trying to give the gospel to? Because you say you love God, you're trying to expose the lies of the last days. That's his big thing also, he's out here to expose the lies of the last days. but why not do it with love, with humility, with kindness? 1 Peter 3:15. Be ready to give an answer of the hope that's in you with gentleness and respect, or in the King James with
Yeah.
meekness and fear.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
Go ahead. Now, what I was just going to say is, imagine for a moment how powerful he would be if he had some education in preaching, in some pastoral studies or something. If somebody could take him aside and teach him how to write a proper sermon, how to give a proper talking about his own experience and how much he loved God. If he had the proper education, the proper tutoring, think of how powerful he could be.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the other one thing too that I was thinking of is particularly from somebody who trusts in God. If you trust in God, then you should have trust that God is going to use you as a vessel and however He chooses to. You should rely on Him for promotion and your message getting out. I think often Christians can, they can take too much of that, I have to promote myself, I have to figure out a way how to do this, They rely on the wisdom of men and how, man markets those things, and they try to apply those things to the ways of God. And at the end of the day, you just got to realize that, look, if God wants to use you, He's going to promote you. He's going to put you out there. It's not something that you have to take on your shoulders. Just be faithful in opening your mouth, and I believe that God will use you how He wants to.
Yeah.
So we got.
I don't think this is. Well, it's certainly never my intention in here to be a, beating on G-Man session, but just trying to get through to him, because I think we have gone some privately, and we have gone some with others, but privately, and so this is the public part of it.
The problem is you go to him privately and he'll use that against you. He will use that as a tool.
Yeah, well, he's done that with me. He has done that with me. But that also, I think, I don't usually participate in a hangout like this, but what's made me feel so strongly about this was the blackmail attempt on Faithful. Because that is beyond the pale. And that was done in public blackmail attempt, and he's already publicly accused Faithful, and therefore that needs to be sorted in public.
And I'd like to add to that he has blackmailed Faithful, and yet by saying that he's going to expose certain things, and yet he's still angry about Dragnot threatening to expose his information, even though Drag apologized later. It's the same thing. Yeah.
Today he was demanding an apology from Dragnot, and I think that's just another example of him not listening and not bothering about anything, because Dragnot has apologized. We all saw Drag's post. He has apologised, but G-Man never noticed. So he's demanding the apology today.
Right. So it's not okay for Drag to try to blackmail G-Man, but it's okay for G-Man to try to blackmail Faithful.
Yeah, we and him were talking. I tried to talk to him about that, and he literally told me that he was going to try to call Dragnot's either phone or his work and get him fired from the military.
He's not in the military anymore.
Exactly, but you get my point. That not only is he misinformed, but he is that desperate.
And
wait. I'm just going to whoa. Okay. He actually said that's what he was going to do.
I've heard him.
Get him fired.
I've heard him say it publicly in at least 2 hangouts.
Me too.
For goodness sake!
Right, but the point
is, see, that's going too far.
Right. Yeah, I know. And
Wait,
that's
wait. Can that be repeated? What happened?
G-Man has either threatened to call Dragnaughts the military and get Dragnaught in trouble with the military, or he has suggested that how would he like it if I called the military and got him in trouble. Problem is, Drag hasn't been in the military for a while.
Yeah.
I think it could be. It could be. No, I best not.
right. I don't want to go
I
too much
actually
into
remember
it.
that. I
don't
actually
wanna-
remember the
I don't wanna
comment.
go-
You know, now that you guys mentioned that, it kind of reminds me of the incident, I think it was last year, that he uploaded a video that he did a marathon or something. I think he had his name in the video,
Yes.
and people grabbed that and they mirrored it or something to that effect. I forget what it was, but
Yeah,
people
I
were
recall.
saying his name in Hangouts, and I think he took offense to that. And I think that he tends to get into this like mode of thinking of, well, they did it to me, now I need to do it to them, or something
But
to that effect.
nobody has tried to get G-Man fired.
No. The worst I can think of is there was a sort of strong suggestion to send G-Man a certain type of gummy candy.
No.
But that's
By the
about
way,
it.
I don't want anybody to think I'm justifying his behavior. That's reprehensible behavior to even
Yeah.
imply that you're going to call someone's job, or in the case of Dragnet, call the military. I mean, what is he thinking? Like,
Well,
This is
if
why
someone
I don't. When it comes to G-Man, I just wish that this guy would grow up, and because he's what, from what I heard, like 40 years
He's
old.
40.
Can I say something about him?
Sure,
Go
Mark.
ahead, and then John, I think, wants to go up next.
I think his behavior is similar to that of God. So, yeah.
Okay, that was all right. Let's go to John now.
I was going to say,
Face palm moment.
yeah. I was going to say that just as someone who's actually been in the military, I was in the Navy. For someone to actually think that they can just contact the military, who's going to call the Department of Defense? I mean, it's ridiculous for him to think that he can just, there's not an 800 number. I'm sorry. there's not, you can't just contact the person and say, yes, I want to talk to this person's, commanding officer. It's not that simple.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, well, it's G-Man. You know who? I want to talk to him right now, or I'm gonna put you on blast. I'm gonna make a hangout, and
Yeah, but that's my point, though.
Oh,
God is very like eye for an eye and vengeful, and
No.
selfish like that too in the Bible.
All right, Fiona, I'll let you handle this one.
I was going to say, Jesus said, "You've heard it said, an eye for an eye, tooth for tooth, but I tell you to turn the other cheek."
And
That's what
Jesus,
Christ said.
and Jesus
That's
is
what
God.
Christ- Yeah.
But God is also God too, right?
Yeah.
The funny thing about it is, I made a video.
God is God. What? What the heck?
yeah. Mark was a troll. I mean,
Yeah, good boy.
I made a video about G-Man a couple of months back, and I went through the 10 commandments and basically went through the list and said which one of these commandments has he broken, and the only one I could just give him immediately was the adultery, and it's only because I was afraid to know where he'd been putting,
Well, you see that's the thing, though. I mean, this is it's so difficult to there's no point in like attacking him and all the rest of it in here. And we're trying to get through to him. The way he's handling this, the way he's dealing with this, is pushing people away all the time.
Mm-hmm.
That's what he's doing. And that's what he needs to realise. Because, I mean, even today, we've had a repeat of the justification for using the bullhorn. He says he was being muted and his volume was turned down. Now, I remember that night in Hangouts, and the Hangouts weren't working properly, and I was having real trouble I was the only one with controls at the time. And while anybody could have muted G-Man, obviously I would have seen it in a little box in the corner. And one person muted him, and I blew that person out of the water for doing so.
Yes.
And told them that if anyone was going to do any muting, I would do it. I didn't share controls with anybody either. When I tried to turn down his volume because he did keep interrupting, it wouldn't work. It was really glitchy in Hangouts that night. And when I was trying to, put people on to broadcast, or when I was trying to screen share or whatever, there was real delays in it. I would have to try 3 or 4 times before the buttons would work. And I couldn't reduce his volume. I tried and tried, and I couldn't do it. So his volume was not reduced. Neither was he muted before he first picked up that bullhorn. And if you watch the clip, you hear him continually shouting, evidence, 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 evidence. He's not muted. And then he picks up that bullhorn and shouts into it. And if he had been muted, as he's claiming, a bullhorn wouldn't have made a blind bit of difference. But this was today he said that again. He was being muted and his volume was being turned down, and that was the only way he could be heard. That is not true. And the fact that when he's saying that, he was being muted, given that anybody could have muted him, that is impugning everybody who was in the hangout. And that's why I made a public post about this today, because it's everybody who was in that hangout is now accused, and they didn't do it. And I was the only one with controls that could have turned his volume down, but I couldn't do it because Hangouts was being glitchy. So he's still trying to justify this. And that's a problem, because we've heard tonight in here from people who did go to him in private about the bullhorn business. And yet today, in a hangout, he was joking about having used bullhorn. And he also used the bullhorn again. So he's not sorry that he used it. He's not sorry at all. He's just excusing it. And it doesn't matter who criticises him for using that bullhorn. It's going to be water off a duck's back as far as he's concerned. It's not listening.
He doesn't care.
But
I honestly think he doesn't care what anybody thinks. He is his own god, and his opinion is the only one that counts.
Well, then but I would sort of disagree there. I think he is prideful. That's the one thing. But at the same time, he is trying, because there's a moment I've had him where I called him out on this behavior, and he said that one of the things that he said is that he wanted me to pray for him because he's currently not at a church. This was like last year, that he didn't attend a church and that he'd been dealing with some demons and that he needed a church to go to. So, but I don't know if that's the same situation that's what's going on now.
I think it is.
But if that's the case, I mean, he just needs to talk with Brother Faithful, Brother Veckel, or just anyone that he can, and talk about going what kind of church he needs to take into consideration.
But we've been doing this route. It was way back when the Bible thumping wingnut and Matthew 4:19 tried to talk to him about this.
Yeah.
And he declared that they weren't Christians, that they were of Satan. Because they were trying to correct him about something, and also because they were trying to say to him to get to a church. He said, what difference does it make if it's in a building? And he's not. So he is his own authority when it comes to reading scripture. And I've seen him taking so many wrong turns on this. You know, when somebody gets to the stage of preaching that it's not adultery if your spouse gives permission, then you know there's a problem.
And he railed against them for 2 weeks, saying they were antichrists and they weren't Christians and things like that. You know, and I think it was finally Veckel who persuaded him that he was wrong, and he kind of half apologized.
Yeah. So that's, I think, is a difficulty.
Let me rephrase that. He said that he admitted that he was wrong, but I'm not sure that he actually apologized to them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And the difficulty is that if anyone says something that he does not agree with, then they are not going to be real Christians, and that's where he's going to have trouble in finding a church.
I think
because it's what he's made up his mind about, you know, and he is right, and the no ifs and no buts. So if a pastor says something that G-Man doesn't agree with, then he's away. He'll leave that church. The church has got to be in agreement with G-Man, or it isn't a good enough church.
Yeah.
So he set himself up as that authority.
Mm-hmm. But I think at the same time, if he can at least start with them that agrees with most of his theology, then it can be a good starting point. Like, I'm a Calvinist, but I highly doubt there's anyone in my church that is a Calvinist. I'm in a traditional Southern Baptist type of church, but I learn from them on several issues that I have concerns about. And I even go to another Baptist church occasionally because of a client I take care of that's a little more liberal, if you will, compared to the conservative Southern type of Baptist church that I'm used to. So I get a good taste of both flavors, and I get learning a bit of both. Like at the Baptist church I go to, I play bass and we play country type music with gospel, and we get that burning preaching from the South type of preaching. But then I go to this other one, it's more traditional. People are wearing the robes, they have the traditional choir, almost seems sort of Catholic. They have the communion thing at the end, and at one day they were given a picture of Saint Francis of Assisi. It was an icon of Saint Francis, and they put it for display for people to walk by, get a picture of, and just gaze at it. It was a nice painting of Saint Francis, and it was just absolutely marvelous to even get a bit of knowledge on the guy. So, but I think if he just goes to these different churches, he can at least try to decide based on what he hears if what's being preached is sound doctrine, and if he's able to fit in and actually consider it as a family that he can learn from. I think
here's a wee
good start.
Here's a wee problem. One of the churches that he tried, he told us about this a good long time ago. One of the churches he decided to go to was a Spanish language church, and he doesn't speak Spanish. So if he had to have an interpreter there with him, and if the interpreter wasn't there, he could get nothing from the service.
Well, I suppose at least that way you can't tell them that they're wrong.
But that's the thing, though. I don't think he's grasped what the church, being in a church, is about. There is absolutely no point in going along to a church when they're speaking a language you do not speak. You've missed the entire point of it.
I don't actually think that's the case, because like the last guy just said, he has to see if he can fit in, you know, if the doctrines resemble what he, you know, believes is true doctrine or whatever. So those are two aspects of it. So yeah, it's a sense of community. It's a sense of community. So Yeah.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is, if everything is being conducted in a language that you don't understand, how can you tell if the doctrine is what you agree with?
Oh, I agree with that, but I think a lot of people join churches for the community over everything, you know. And like the other guy just said, I think it was Christian Anarchist. He goes to two different churches. I'm sure they don't
Hmm.
teach the same thing. Like you could
No,
pick up.
totally different.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
But it's about, you might sing together, dance together, have
yeah,
events and dinners and things like that. So I think, yeah, especially
Here's
somebody like him, he probably needs like all this ego reinforcement or something like that. Like,
Well,
I
here's what
don't
I
know.
get from my churches. Here's what I get from my churches. When I go to my traditional Southern Baptist type, what I get from there is the sense of God is being sovereign and that no matter what happens in life, God's going to always be there for you. And the idea of also trying to do a almost sort of theological type of Bible study where he'll read the background of the letter being written, say, now this church that was going through these issues back then, and I'm also going to read from this Matthew Henry commentary. And at one point he read from a Methodist commentary, and if you're a Baptist that reads those, well, you're gonna expect some heat because he's then says, "Oh no, Brother Roger, you're reading all these things from these Methodists." And he's like, "Well, I may be a Baptist, but I sure as heck quote from a Methodist, and we can still agree we're Christians, aren't we?"
yeah.
And that's my nerdy impression of my own pastor.
I used to, some Sundays, go to, it was before I was a Roman Catholic,
Mm-hmm.
I would go to my own church, Church of Scotland, and straight after the service, I had enough time to get to Mass at the local Roman Catholic church, and I would go straight there as well. Because it doesn't matter about the differences in them. The
Well,
bottom line is Christ and faith in Christ.
I think the main issue when it comes to differences is, and the term I mainly hear it the first time I heard it was from Matt Slick, was the term adiaphora, which is the differences that we're allowed to agree to disagree on, like what color should the church carpet be? Or should it be purple or should it be red?
Yeah.
But
See, I mean, we have major doctrinal differences,
mm-hmm.
but if we're honest about it,
Yeah, I mean, there are
we
some
don't
major ones.
we don't know who's right and who's wrong.
We can.
We believe.
Mm-hmm. Right. I think the one thing we can be sure is that when we look at certain things, like we can tell that, especially with me being involved in the King James only controversy, I can look at the some people say, well, you're saying all these modern translations, why? What about the Jehovah's Witness Bible? How can you tell it's wrong? I can tell it's wrong because I can look at the doctrine that they're teaching and go with the text that they're using for the New World Translation, and that they purposefully remove or change words that mean something that is just well known in the Greek to mean what we have in our modern Bibles, but they'll change it to something else just so it can fit their doctrine. Like I think this was mentioned on TST, the Adrian Asadati, whatever, white supremacist guy. I had a conversation with him, and he mentioned this Anointed Standard Translation was the most literal word-for-word translation of the New Testament to exist. And this guy was a believer of positive Christianity, which in other words was Nazi Christianity. And I looked at Mark chapter 1, verse 8, where it says, what John the Baptist is saying, and he will come and he will baptize with the Holy Spirit, which I believe was pneuma hone, or something in the Greek. But the Anointed translation says, he will baptize you with the mentality of separation. I'm like, what the heck? But you see, my point is that I can look at certain things and say, this is a big no-no when you do something like this.
Just Christian Arcus quickly. Is G-Man a King James onlyist?
Slightly. Like he's like, I think there's error. He said he believes there's some errors in the modern translations, but he doesn't want to go deep into it for some reason. But he says that he based his faith on the King James Bible.
Yeah, he emphatically says that he is not a King James onlyist.
No, he reads a child's study Bible as well.
Oh, come on. But Sean, what were you saying?
Sorry.
That's cool.
Yeah, I guess I can't really go further because I haven't.
I like Cliff's controversial statements.
Right.
He's something like that.
Hold on. Let's let him.
Sorry,
Sean,
John.
Let's let Sean go continue before someone else gets involved.
Oh yeah, no, that's just fine. I've just heard G-Man in the past pretty much emphatically say, people always accuse me of being a King James onlyist when I'm not. So, according to his mouth, he's not. That's it.
Well,
I'd just like to point something out, if I may. I know that my words are coming off extremely snarky. I have a low tolerance to G-Man because of his actions. And one of the things that I think is saddest, and Fiona pointed it out before I joined, is that he is driving Christians away. You might think as an atheist, I want more people to be atheists. I just want people to believe what they want to believe and share the world. I'm not here to deconvert anyone or anything like that. I suppose I'm here to discover what makes other people tick. Why do they believe when I don't? And that's my reason. To know about other people helps me learn about myself. Pure example, visiting another country and listening to other people and how their systems work, their government works, their education works, their whatever healthcare system works, allows you to compare it with someone else's and see either the flaws and advantages in yours. And that's why I'm here. So, like I say, you might think that I'm all in favor of G-Man continuing what he does because he makes atheists all the time. I'm sure he does. He's made more atheists than he's made Christians if he's made any Christians at all.
Oh yeah, that's because G-Man is an atheist. That's my opinion on him. He already, I see the little psychological signs, I remember when I used to frequent his hangouts, he would get so outraged and he would be like, no, you're not going to turn me into an atheist. I'm not going to be one of you sinners and things like that. So basically, he only does that when you make like a good point, when you stump him or something like that. And then he'll say you're trolling or something like that. But what he's really saying and he's lashing out at is you're making too much sense and I don't like it. I don't like that feeling. I don't like how I'm questioning myself because we all know atheism is bad. And for you to make me feel like I'm one of those bad people like you, I'm mad at you, And then, of course, he made the chocolate atheist video, which sounded very believable and got the whole internet in an outrage. But I think he's just, if he's not an atheist, he's highly, highly doubting his faith. And that's why he's lashing out like that.
I disagree. He's not an atheist at all. He is incredibly bigoted.
I agree with that too.
And
but you can.
I was actually really annoyed at him with the chocolate atheist thing. Not because I fell for it or anything like that. I knew he was lying. And the reason I knew for it is because if someone becomes an atheist, it's a long, steady progress thing. It says sort of they gradually change and they start thinking about things. You don't suddenly change. That just doesn't happen. So, do you know who I was why I was most upset? It was because of Shani. Because, Shani went in there and she was practically in tears and telling him off for it because he did this on Easter Sunday of all days. This is one of the most important days for a Christian, and he decides to pull a joke on that day. That's rubbing just rubbing it in the face of his faith. And I just think that is a terrible thing to do for a Christian. It's apostasy on Easter Sunday.
Yeah, but I think that in combination with the way he acts, it wasn't even if that video didn't exist, and I was still, and of course he's a bigot. You could be a bigoted idiot atheist all you want, but like I said, when you look at when he lashes out and why he lashes out, you're like, what are you talking about? How am I trolling? But he always does it when you stump him and you make him think, and he has that cognitive dissonance, that uncomfortable feeling to hold two contrary opinions, and he doesn't like it, and he wants to hurry up and immediately get rid of it and rationalize it away. So you must be attacking me or something like that. No, I just gave you an actual idea for once, or So I think he's probably one, or going to be one soon, or just going to be very depressed or something like that.
I
I
would say
think he's
depressed.
possibly. I think he's more likely threatened by atheism. I don't think he's not an atheist. I'm quite convinced of that.
Yeah, I think that would be a big stretch.
Yeah. I do think, though, that Mark actually has a point, in that perhaps, because I've seen this too, when people make a point, he, starts calling them names or whatever. He may be afraid to question his faith. A lot of people are. I went to Catholic school, and I was taught that doubt is a normal thing, that it happens to everyone. There are saints who went through great doubts, and you shouldn't be afraid of doubt. But I think there are a lot of people who are, because I don't care how strong your faith is, there's going to be some time, somebody dies suddenly, some horrible thing happens, when you can't help but think, or just a passing thought in your brain goes, well, how could a God allow this? Is there a God? But you shouldn't be afraid of those things happening. You shouldn't be afraid of the moments when you doubt, because it's perfectly human. But I do think there are people here who are afraid of doubt. And I think that cripples them somewhat.
Yeah.
And I think G-Man may be one of them.
I agree.
I once said something
To
sometime
be honest,
ago.
I disagree. It's like that. I think he's very strong-headed in a very specific point of view. It's his theology of the highway, basically.
Nah, that's all an act. He's very insecure. That's just like the tough bully guy who's actually a coward on the inside. That confidence is all an act on video. Like he's very doubtful. I think, but I think it's all an act to act confident in his beliefs.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not ruling out the possibility. I'm just saying because being an educator, I deal with students pretty much during the week at university, and I can tell when someone is very adamant. But you see, what will be interesting is that okay, so it's the students in my class who range between, like 80% of them will range between 18 and 25. Very few will be beyond 30 and 40. And it's usually those people who, down the track will contact me, years later saying, and then by the way, I'm 27, so I'm speaking when I first started teaching about 3 or 4 years ago. So only recently they contact me saying, hey, these things have happened. I've grown up so much more. You were totally right on certain things, But you see, with G-Man, he's 40. He's 40. And I think he's reached that age where that's it. He's set in stone. I don't think he'll ever.
Yeah.
It'll be very slim for him to be like the young 20-year-olds who, have these experiences and then change. Yeah.
He's lost the neuroplasticity.
Pretty much, yeah.
But surely, I mean, all of us are capable of change. Doesn't matter how old we are. We're all capable of change. And I wouldn't say that it's an impossibility for God to change someone. But you have to be open. You have to be receptive to that. And with G-Man being his own...
That's a very good point, because the Church Fathers, I think it was Irenaeus, I forget now, he said, in speaking about the ex nihilo creation event, he says, if God can do that, then surely he can turn hard stones into loving hearts or something like that, he said. And that's very true, yeah.
Yeah, but I think the difficulty is coming when G-Man's pride and his ego is getting in the way. And because he never shuts up long enough, God can't get a word in edgeways anyway.
Yeah.
That's a good analogy.
One of the things I was taught, and as I say, I was taught, I can't say it was any specific person that taught me, so it was maybe one of the things that I learned, that when in prayer, you don't start with, hey God, gabble along, say amen and go to sleep. You have to stop and listen. If you're praying to God and you're asking Him to help you to cope with something, you've got to listen for the answer. And I think often people think, as I say, they start off with, hi God, gabble, 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 amen. And that's it. And I think you've got to stop, basically get your mind to shut up for a minute, because you've always got all these thoughts going through. It's like meditation almost. You have to actually stop and just be open, be receptive. And if God can't get past your pride, if you're not willing to say, I can't do this on my own, and let God come in to do it and to help you, then God's not going to force himself on you.
That requires humility, and G-Man doesn't really do humility.
Exactly. I would like to point out, as someone who will be 66 in May, and by the way, I'm going to have at least one 666 birthday hangout, either because it's just too perfect not to. Either the
6th of June.
Yeah, well, it's either going to be 66 and the decimal point, or 66 and 6 months, maybe both. I learn new things every day. I learned stuff today listening to General and Spackle Talk. I didn't know the background of that whole thing with a woman touching a man's genitals. I thought that was really interesting.
That was fascinating.
And it was, and it put everything in context for me. I thought that was wonderful. I wanted more. Unfortunately, I had a headache when they had their hangout, which had nothing to do with their hangout, by the way, completely irrelevant. So
that
I'm
always
actually going to
happens when women are talking about men's genitals. Oh,
but I'm going to go back and listen. That's true.
A smile on my face. I was thinking.
I'm going to go back and listen to that hangout all over again, because there was so much good stuff in it. But I learn new stuff every day, and I'm a really stubborn person, so sometimes it's hard for me to get past that stubbornness. But actually, the older I get, in some ways, the more flexible I get, because I've learned that being stubborn and getting angry and things like that have no purpose whatsoever. It just stops you from communicating. It stops you from learning. It stops you from having fun. And having good conversations with people, or listening to good conversations, is just really cool. So, yeah.
I want to take this time to announce that we are going to be ending the broadcast, but if anyone wants to come in, just come to the Christian Anarchist Google Plus page, click on the link, and join. You can check into my feed, and we'll get you set up for the after-party conversation. But till then, I gotta do this again, because some people, I found out, are already celebrating St. Paddy's Day today. So, yar! How did I do the accent again? Alrighty, mates. So it's time to in the hangout. So, cheerio. Happy good drinking St. Paddy's Day. Make sure you drink the guineas and make sure it's clean, eh?